Hey team, hope you're doing well. Today's topic is how to run 1500 meters in 4 minutes. And I know a lot of you are either in college or maybe you're preparing for an indoor season or preparing for the outdoor season coming up here in the outdoor track season. And breaking 4 minutes for the 1500 meters is highly difficult. My personal best for 1500 meters when I was in college was a painstakingly 4 minutes and 2 seconds, 2 hundredths of a second. So I was so close to breaking the 4 minute 1500 meter barrier when I was in college. And it's an exciting event. It's still an aerobic event, but it definitely is more anaerobic in nature because you definitely have to have that speed. You have to work on your speed. You have to be very patient to break 4 minutes for the 1500 meter event. You have to have a great deal of stamina as well. So the long runs are still very vital, even for distances, middle distance races like these 1500 meter events. A 1500 meter in 4 minutes flat is basically about a 4:17 for the full mile, so 1609 meters. And anybody that's trying to break 4 minutes for the 1500 meter, I think you have to make sure that you're focusing more on quality versus quantity. Okay, if you're running too much aerobic mileage, especially for the 1500 meter, and you're not paying attention to real quality running, your chances of breaking 4 minutes is going to be very difficult. But I want to make sure that I share some things that help me get to 4 minutes, basically 4 minutes flat for the 1500 meters when I was in college, and some of the things I was doing. I was definitely working on my leg turnover. I was really working on those shorter repetitions on the track, repeat 800s down toward around 213 to 216 with about 60 seconds rest. I was doing repeat Ks on the track, and I remember doing about 5 to 6 1 kilometer repetitions on the track and getting those down to around 254, 255 per rep with about a 60 seconds rest in between each one of the reps. And one thing you got to keep in mind if you're wanting to run, in terms of how to run 1500 meters in 4 minutes, is you want to pay attention to that third lap. Okay, the third lap of a 1500 meter is really your bread and butter. That's where most athletes that you're competing against are going to get the weakest. So you have to get out quick, but not so fast that you go into oxygen debt and you redline way too early in the race. Focusing on a negative split in the 1500 meter is key. Running that second half faster than you run the first half and not going out so fast that, again, you're forced to slow down. And in many cases, for me personally, that was kind of my mistake. I was going out way too aggressive in the first lap of the race. Again, running a 4 flat for 1500 meters is basically running around 64 seconds per lap for 4 consecutive laps. So if you're going out, say, 59-60 the first lap, which was a problem that I had, I was going out way too aggressive in the first lap of the race. And that cost me, I think, in my opinion, looking back at it now, in not running around 353, 356 range instead of 4 flat for the 1500 meter. And again, I was more a long distance runner rather than a middle distance runner, but I did have some decent leg speed. So continue to work on your endurance and your stamina. Continue to stay consistent. You have to stay consistent if you want to break, or if you want to run 4 flat for 1500 meters. Consistency and tenacity is the key. Okay, you're not going to run 4 flat for 1500 meters by kind of just being lukewarm about your preparation. You have to visualize success. You have to make sure that you're getting out the door on a consistent basis. You're putting in the mileage. Don't get so hyped up about how much mileage you need to be doing. I think quality, again, is key when it comes down to running a 4 flat for 1500 meter. So there are athletes out there that are doing this on about 30 miles a week. There are other athletes that might need to be running 40 to 50 miles a week in order to run 4 flat for 1500 meters. But some of the key workouts that I would recommend doing, if you're trying to run, in terms of how to run a 1500 meter in 4 minutes, is to start off conservative. If you're doing, say, repeat 1200s and you're doing maybe 4 1200 meter repetitions on the track, start off doing those 1200 meter reps at around 356 per rep, maybe giving yourself 3 minutes rest in the early stages of your buildup, and then working your way down to where you can do those same repetitions, maybe 4 to 5 1200 meter repetitions at around 319 to 322 to 323 per rep, but only giving yourself 60 seconds rest in between each one of your repetitions. So again, the key is to improve your body's lactate tolerance. You're going to have to do that in order to run 4 flat for 1,500 meters. The emphasis on anaerobic training is key. Also, make sure you're jogging on your recovery days so that, again, you're able to continue to, over a long period of time, to adapt to these hard anaerobic workouts you're doing. Again, there's only so many times you can push the body hard anaerobically and expect to get high returns on your investment. So you have to make sure that you're jogging on those recovery days. You're not running so fast that you're not adapting to the hard workouts you're doing. And again, paying attention to the fundamentals that go along with running, being a successful middle to long distance runner is key. Paying attention to your nutrition, your sleep, hydrating well, still paying attention to those varied pace long runs that I talk about. Even if you're training for a 1,500 meter, it still applies. If you're running long, slow, and easy every single weekend, it's just going to make you a superior long, slow distance runner. So, and if you're training for a 1,500 meter and you're training to run 4 minutes flat or below for 1,500 meters, you better have some portions of that long run where you're running at VO2 max, where you're running at your anaerobic threshold. For an athlete that's training for a 4 flat, your threshold might be running around 5:16 mile pace. VO2 max might be running closer down toward around 4:35 mile pace. So again, you're sprinkling in those types of intensities. Even if you're running a VO2 max during a long run, it might just be running 2 to 3 minute segments at that intensity, slowing down, recovering for a few miles, then running a few miles or few kilometers at your anaerobic threshold. Okay, again, running around 5:16. So these are intense efforts, making sure that you're alternating it, just like if you're training for a 5 mile, a 10 miler, half marathon, you're backing off the pace, you're speeding up. You're backing off, you're speeding up. It's sort of like a fartlek session, but just longer duration. And again, if you're training for, this in terms of how to run a 1,500 meter in 4 minutes, you don't need to be running really further than 8 kilometers to 10 kilometers for a long run. You might want to work to get to a point where you can branch that out to around 15K to 20K, okay? Because again, how much easier is a mile or a 1,500 meter or running the full, or 1,600 meters if you're in high school? How much easier is that going to feel for you if you've branched out your long run to 10 miles or to 8 to 10 miles in length? So always keep those things in mind. Running over distance, making sure that you're jogging on your recovery days, but really paying attention to your speed development. You have to work on your speed and improve your body's lactate tolerance to run a 1,500 meter in 4 minutes flat. This is a very, very fast time. I ran a couple 4 flats. I ran a few 401s, several 402s when I was in college. I was always trying to get into the 3s, but again, I was a better long distance runner than I was a middle distance runner, but I did have decent leg speed. So make sure that you're working on your strengths, working on your weaknesses as well, and your chances of success are going to go up. Definitely work on those very fast anaerobic VO2 max workouts each week as well to really work on your leg turnover. Examples of that is, again, starting off repeat 200s. If you're doing 10 to 15 200 meter reps on the track training for a 1,500, that might mean starting off in the first few weeks of your build-up running those reps at around 36 seconds, maybe giving yourself around 90 seconds rest at the beginning, and then working your way down to where you're doing those at around 29 to 32 seconds per rep, and giving yourself maybe 45 seconds of rest in between each reps. So at the very beginning, much slower reps, more recovery in between each one of those reps, and as you get fitter, more anaerobically ready, the reps are going to get much faster, and your rest in between each one of your reps are going to get much lower. So always focus on that. You're not going to get any rest in a race, so make sure that you're working on that throughout your training buildup. So I hope this is helpful in terms of how to run 1,500 meters in 4 minutes. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave me a comment below. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so when I make a new video, you will be notified of it. And I wish you guys and gals all the very best in your train up for the 1,500 meter event or whatever event you're going for. And I will talk to you all in the next video.